Hello, everyone. Elida Zweidler-McKay with ZM Coach, where we're all about helping you take your leadership to the next level, whether that's working in your current organization and moving up, or finding a different role somewhere else where you can really get your career to that next step, getting the promotion and the recognition and the pay that you deserve based on the experience that you've had and what you bring to the workplace. Um, One of the things that came up last week in my coaching calls with my clients was how to deal with people who are behaving badly, whether that's someone who's not responding to a message or someone who has gotten irritated or frustrated and is acting unprofessional in some way, or someone who's disappointed in something that you've done. So that issue of how do I deal with strong emotions on the part of somebody else, or no emotions, no response, no answer on the part of someone else. And I wanted to come in today to talk with you about this idea of not taking things just personally. I think if there were a theme to my coaching work over the last 25 years and my own professional development, it would be that the idea that when we can see a system, when we can see what else might be going on for someone or in an organization or in a system that we're part of, it's easier to then not take other people's reactions to us so personally. One of my very favorite quotes is from Barry Oshry. This is from the book Seeing Systems. He says, in organizations, much of the time we think we are dealing person to person, when in fact we're dealing context to context. And much that feels personal is not personal at all. So what do I mean by that? Well, when we're thinking about context, what that means is that we're seeing beyond the individual person and their behavior, or ourselves and our own behavior. And we're looking at the context in which that behavior is taking place. Maybe there's some kind of organizational conflict going on. For example, when I used to do work in team building and team effectiveness, one of the biggest challenges I would find is that there was usually some kind of conflict between the head of sales and the head of production. And the reason was that the head of sales was responsible for driving a lot of revenue, right? So get as many products to happen as quickly as you can, get them to be as different as possible so you can appeal to every single niche that might be out there and pull in revenue. Whereas the head of production is usually responsible for cost. And so on their side of the equation, their focus is on how do I reduce cost? How do I keep it simple? How do I streamline it? So from production's point of view, they want any color as long as it's black. And from marketing or sales point of view, to generate revenue, you want to be able to provide all the different colors and all the different aspects and newfangled toys and whatever that's going to make it really great for different audiences so everyone will want to buy your product, right? I'm oversimplifying, but you see the point. Now, what happens is those two players in any given team are likely to be at odds because they have different goals. One has the goal of revenue, one has the goal of cost. And if they're not working from the place of context and their shared goal, it's likely that there's going to be some tension between the two of them. Now, if they're not thinking context, if they're not thinking systems, it's pretty likely that they're going to take that conflict personally. They're going to think the other person's a jerk or doesn't listen or doesn't pay attention or doesn't care, or whatever stories they're going to make up, because we always are interpreting other people's behavior. And usually the way we interpret it is in some way that is either personal about us or personal about the other person. The problem with that is that when we are interpreting things in that way, there's not much we can do about it, right? Like if it's either the guy's a jerk or, she doesn't care about what I'm doing or whatever, like then we're stuck with just having to vilify that other human being. And we can't really see the broader context in which they're operating or the broader context in which we're operating. So one of the things that I work with my clients on is how do we develop, first of all, our own sense of self so that we can be really separate from whatever's happening around us. I don't mean detached in a disconnected kind of way, but separate enough that you can be whole, even in the face of someone else's disappointment or someone else's irritation or someone else's frustration with you or whatever, that you can kind of have a space between their reaction and what you take in so that you can filter out for the parts that are going to be useful for you, but also notice what doesn't really apply or what isn't really about you. You can be whole. Then, if you're in a place where you can be whole, it's easier to create some space for the other person to be whole too, and to sort of look behind the curtain and think about what might be going on in their world, what's happening for them. And is that, is it something related to the work in the way that you're working together or in different goals that you might have? And then when it comes to that conflict resolution, looking for what are our shared goals? What are our shared perspectives? So if the head of production and the head of sales get together and they say, look, let's stop fighting about revenue and cost and let's really look at profit, then they can get somewhere, because then they can really come together and figure out how are we together going to meet this broader goal, which is actually more important to the organization in the first place than either of our separate goals taken to the extreme. Right. But to get there, there's this whole set of stuff you have to do first to manage yourself, and then to rise above it and see what's happening in the system, and then to really get to some compassion where you can connect with the other person and then define the shared goals. And that is a step-by-step process that I teach my clients, which helps them become so much more effective in their work, so much more effective in collaborating and partnering with others. And then because of that, so much better at being able to achieve the kind of goals that the organization is looking to them to achieve. Because let's face it, once you're at a senior manager, director, VP, or executive level, there's very little that you can get done by yourself. You're going to need those relationships and those partnerships. And if you're in a place where you're defended and you're taking things personally, or you're making stuff about the other person and complaining about them, you're not going to be in a good position to build those partnerships and take your career forward. So we get all the way down to the heart of that, working at all those different levels to make sure that my clients can be super effective in how they work with and persuade and connect with other people to meet mutual goals that are going to serve the company and get them the kind of recognition and rewards that they deserve. If this is intriguing to you at all, feel free to book a call with me. You can do that at zmcoach.com/apply, and we can talk more about what it would look like for us to work together. Or if you're interested in learning more, you can also check out my website and watch my free webinar where we talk about this and several other strategies that you can use to take your career to the next level. I look forward to talking to you. The links will be down below. Take care.